The grey man does whatever a grey man can. Can he make a comic feed? Yes, he can. He just did. Watch now, a video from Grey Man. A video from Grey Man.
Hey, beautiful people of YouTube. It's me again, and Grey Maniacs gather. It's time for my weekly reads review. This is how many comic books I've read this week. Wow! Let's try and do them in order. So this one I showed on Cover Slingers a couple of weeks ago, weekend before last, on our lizard theme show. It was a book that I've had for a long while. I've read it a couple of times already. I originally bought it from the library and enjoyed it so much that I bought myself a copy of it. It's an old Vertigo title. Milligan did the story. It's got some wacky characters in it. It's got an interesting story. Like basically this enigmatic, hence the name Enigma, sort of hero figure appears, taking out these crazy villains. There's one called The Truth that makes you sort of see the truth inside and basically top yourself because the truth is too hard to live with. Another one called Envelope Woman, who's kind of weird. She wraps people up in parcels and sends them across the world, and they sort of become infatuated with her for some reason. She sends them. They're really kind of wacky. They're like the interior decorator gang. I can't remember what they're called exactly, but they come in your house, they decorate your house in such a way that someone's mind will be blown and they become psychotic. Really crazy stuff. And the guy who's trying to follow the Enigma realises that he knows him from somewhere. And it turns out it was an old comic book, like free, only lasted for 3 issues, and somehow the characters are from that comic book. It's the one that he read obsessively as a kid, so he feels he's connected to it. He ends up meeting the guy who wrote the comic book, and all kinds of craziness ensues. And it was one of those comics that I read it again. I didn't realise the art was. I didn't enjoy the art so much, but then I was always much more into stories anyway. But when I was reading it, I was surprised the art was kind of a little bit, I don't know, darkish, I suppose I'd call it, and not as clean as I prefer my art to be. But it's such a good story that it didn't bother me anyway. It carries me along all the same. But it's one of those ones I wish I'd forgotten the story so that I could have the whole thing again from new. So I could go through the ups and downs and thought processes that I went through when I first read it. Right, I also did 4 trades of The Exterminators. I actually managed to pick up a couple of these cheap from a charity shop, and I tried to buy the other. I think I got 3. Yeah, I think I got 3 of them from a charity shop, and then I tried to buy the 4th one, and I accidentally bought the wrong number, so I ended up having a double. I still got a double somewhere. I'm not sure where that's gone now. So I've got an extra one of these, and it was quite a good story, quite daft. They are exterminators, bug and animal exterminators. Quite strange cast of characters. The main character is recently got out of prison. His stepfather is taking him into his extermination company. There's these South American killer cockroaches that have emerged. It's just basically man versus insects, but all blown up to 100, taking in elements of drug empire and corporate blinking fiddling. But there's this gel that they use to kill the cockroaches, but it's actually also can be used as a drug for humans. It makes them explode, like all their organs explode eventually, and also it ends up the cockroaches become immune to it. It kind of turns them into super cockroaches. So it's all there's also an ancient Mayan god who's been reborn into the body of a dead exterminator who's trying to lead the cockroach race to wipe out humanity. It all gets very larger than life, very dark, but quite a cool read. I haven't got the whole set. I've only got 4, so the story carries on. So I need to try and pick up number 5. I'm assuming they did the rest of them in trades. But yeah, it was a pretty cool read. Right, these next 3 comic books, American Vampire. I don't really know much about this series, but I got 3 of them, a full story arc, 19 to 21, sent to me by Apex Comics. I came like 3rd prize or 2nd prize in a contest that he did, and he sent me these free books. Not a bad read. I'm not sure if the context of the story and the time of the story was just in this part of the story, or if it stayed like this, because this was set mainly during the Civil War, and there's two brothers, or half brothers, I think they were, or maybe one of them was adopted brother, and the adopted brother's a bit of a psychopath, and the other guy is kind of like tries to keep, though they're kind of loyal to each other, he's a little bit too mad. He tries to keep them under control a little bit. They're after some natives who are holed up in the mountains. They don't know what their numbers are, so it's about taking them out. But these natives appeal to a local vampire goddess, and it goes into her story, how she became a vampire, and what happened from there basically. But I don't know if this 3-story arc, if it's maybe the two brothers are the continuation for the whole run. I don't know whether it was just for this, because this might have, I'm not sure if it was all set in this timeline, or whether it was going back into the past or something like that. I'm not too sure what happened with that story. So, I'm not going to get the rest to find out probably, unless I see him going really cheap somewhere. But it wasn't a bad little read though, to be honest. It was a good, decent little read, but not enough to make me want to go and pick up the other, or however many there are, unless I see them going cheap, of course. Right, the very, very last issue of this Flash run. Yeah, kind of sad, because you all know what happens next. They have a bit of a crisis, let's put it that way. But he reunites though with Iris in the future. At least at the end of the story. But Iris's parents sort of say, "Oh, if only this happened, happiness could last," because they obviously know that the history, the past, and they know it's not going to last, because very soon he's going to go back in time to fight the crisis and perish. But they cleared his name as well. They was able to clear his name. Because the Jew was going to find him not guilty for killing Reverse Flash, and Abracadabra coming from the future, even further in the future than Reverse Flash, to influence the jury into making him guilty. They managed to clear him of that, and the jury ended up finding him not guilty, even though he did kill him. But I think not guilty for reasons of had to be done kind of thing. Right, this is a comic I got from Werewolf by Lunchtime. Thank you very much. He sent me a lovely AK with some cool comics in it. This is my oldest Batman, I think. Detective Comics 322. Wacky old Silver Age craziness. If some explorers found a lamp there, if you get doused with this dust, it will turn you into a genie that goes into the lamp and is forced to grant 3 wishes to whoever owns the lamp. Obviously it's Batman, and basically Robin, he makes them do 2 wishes, and in the end Robin's able to, how does he get him away from the lamp? I can't remember now, but he manages to make it so, I think he does the 3rd wish. I think he makes the 3rd wish because he manages to get the lantern off the bad guys, falls into the river. But rather than appearing to be dead, he actually manages to get out of the water and get Batman. I don't know, he's under the water, drowning. I think he rubs the lamp and gets Batman to save him. And then when they get the lamp back and rub it again, Batman pops out, but he's actually real Batman, not genie Batman. And rather than granting their wish, he grants the wish of the people and puts them in prison. Right, then there's a backup story of Martian Manhunter. There's this evil professor who's managed to duplicate Martian Manhunter's powers, but he doesn't realise about Martian Manhunter's weakness. And Zook, Martian Manhunter's little alien friend, heats up a bin that starts a fire that weakens the guys, so they are able to capture him. I think he ends up losing his memory as well of the guys. But yeah. Anyway, so that was a cool old comic. Thank you, Darren. I think all these are from Werewolf by Lunchtime. When strikes the Silver Dagger. So Silver Dagger had been captive, I think, inside an orb, and he managed to, I think he kidnapped Cleo, or somehow he got Cleo, Doctor Strange's girlfriend, to be in the orb with him, because this is carrying on from the last issue. And he got out of the orb, and he's Spider-Man and Miss Marvel are trying to fight him while protecting Doctor Strange, who had been taken into this orb and was fighting Cleo, and only about able to stand up for himself because she was pretty powerful in there. And I think Silver Dagger was trying to kill his body while his spirit was in the orb, and they was trying to stop him. It was quite tough. In the end, Spider-Man goes into the orb himself somehow, and the chaos of him being in there somehow distracts Cleo, or makes it so Cleo, and then Doctor Strange is able to, I don't know, it all end up for the best anyway. I can't remember the exact storyline now though. Right, this was Spider-Man visits a carnival and to a freak show, and he sees Ghost Rider, but it's Ghost Rider with no clothes on. It's a naked Ghost Rider, but he's just a flaming skeleton. So that answers the question, what is underneath Ghost Rider's clothing? It is just a flaming skeleton. So how his costume manages to look all muscly and is able to move around without any musculature on the bone is beyond me. But the naked Ghost Rider is literally just a flaming skeleton. And this guy had basically mind controlled everyone in the carnival, including Ghost Rider, and which makes Spider-Man suspicious. He knows that's going on. He goes back to investigate, ends up fighting the mind controlled Ghost Rider. Then the sorcerer guy had been someone they met before. I can't remember what his name was now. Black Llama? No, I don't think it was Black Llama, but yeah, I can't remember what his name was, but it was some old villain, and he was trying to get 100 souls, and he'd taken the souls of the one in the carnival, taken the soul of Ghost Rider, he wanted to give them to his master to allow him to have his own soul back, but they end up breaking the orb. Spider-Man breaks the orb, the souls of the carnies all go back into their body, and the demon, instead of giving him his soul, takes him down to hell. Yeah. Let that be a lesson to you. Right. Spider-Man and Black Widow facing off against the Owl. Spider-Man encounters Black Widow on a rooftop overlooking some nefarious goings on below. They go down to take them on. There's an explosion. Spider-Man is able to rescue Black Widow. She's got knocked out, but her friend has been kidnapped. So they manage to go after them, manage to find out where they are, and they go in and rescue him. Lots of fighting ensues. And the Owl tries to get away but fails. Right, another Flash story. Crazy speed, force, stroke, flash, vibrational power shenanigans. He gets overheated. He turns into a comet, like a flaming comet. Like he's not able to maintain his shape or something like that. He becomes a flaming comet for a bit, and then he gets I think he gets blasted again. And no, I think carry on from carries on. In the beginning, he was knocked out last issue, I think, and Heatwave, rather than killing him, puts him in a cryogenic chamber. He's able to get himself loose from the cryogenic chamber, but he's kind of out of sync and not quite right. And then he finally gets Heatwave, gets blasted with his maximum heat wave, which turns him into a flaming comet, makes him go floating up into the atmosphere. He's able to vibrate himself, so he turns into light. Reflects himself off a satellite, comes back to Earth, takes that heat wave. Apparently the coldness that affected him when he was being cryogenically frozen put him out of whack, but the heat blast put him back into whack after various changes. So as I was saying, it was crazy speedful science. Right, Son of Tomahawk. I didn't even realise this was a comic until Darren sent it to me. Werewolf by Lunchtime. Yeah. I wasn't too familiar with the characters at all, but this is Son of Tomahawk. It is literally Son of Tomahawk, and you do see his tomahawk in there as well. He realises that money is important. He wants to be rich. I can't remember what makes him think that. I don't know. I think that's right. He rescues a travelling salesman who has a catalogue showing all these rich people with all these goods and chattels and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I want a bit of that myself." He goes off to find gold with his friend. His friend gets like, gold madness, and it turns out where they're taking their gold from is like a native burial ground. Being of native stock himself, Hawk wants to respect the people's burial ground, but the other guy who's gone gold crazy, as I said, ends up trying to kill him. No, it's our gold, no one else can have it, I'm not leaving it, and all that kind of thing. He tries to attack Hawk. Some of the buried bodies fall down. One of them's got a spear, and it spears the guy, and Hawk realises that money's not as important as some stuff. You know what I mean? He learns a lesson, and Tomahawk and his wife sort of knowingly give each other a nod. He has learnt wisely, kind of thing. The sage, native wisdom kind of stuff. Right, the Weird War Tales. I can't remember the stories from looking at the covers, but there was a bunch of cool war-related stories in there. I think there was one with Baron Richthofen, who was dreaming of being killed by a bishop flying a plane. It turns out that he was eventually killed by someone whose surname was Bishop. There was a second in command of the German outfit, and he was annoyed that the guy who was in charge, was in charge basically, and he wished that he could. Right, and he remembered back to the past when he had him at a duel, and he let him pick up his sword, and it ended up as a draw. And he was wishing, kind of like he wished he'd killed him when he had the chance, like so he'd be in charge. And like there's a French ghost. It turns out to be the ghost of Napoleon, who gives him the chance to go back in time and kill the guy. So thinking he'd be in charge, but instead of being in charge, he's actually disgraced, and he's only a sergeant. So yeah, and so his plans for battle that would have been successful aren't successful because he's no longer in charge, or even second in charge. He's just he's just a sergeant, and he ends up getting killed somehow. I think I don't know. He does a runner and. I can't remember. There's another one story where there's this nasty guy in charge of a extermination camp, and he's got an American prisoner who's been told to question. He tortures him for a while, gets some information out of him, and then he gasses him to death. Turns out the information was fake, and he's too late because he's gassed him now. But the guy's ghost comes back and ends up crashing his jeep. And I think he's crawling, or I think he's injured, or he falls down a ditch or something like that. And then some of his soldiers come in and said that they were told to get rid of the gas that they were using because it was too cruel. So they pump it out into this no man's land kind of area where this general is. And I don't know why they can't be heard. I think he's falling down a ditch or something. I can't remember now. But anyway, he ends up getting gassed with his own gas. That's the only stories I can remember off the top of my head. They're cool. Nice couple of old weird war tales. I think there's about 2 or 3 stories in each book, but I can't remember them all. That Thing versus Man Thing, the very first issue of Marvel 2-in-1, which is nice to have a copy of. It's got some ink staining on it, but that's fine. That's better, low grade, better than no grade and all that. It's good enough for me, and thank you very much. I thought I had a blinky facsimile of this. I'm sure I had a facsimile of this, but when I looked in did I look in my thing? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have got a facsimile of this, which I'll obviously put in my doubles to get rid of. The Thing, this is just some crazy kind of Fantastic Four. Some of the stories are really like weird. He'd been in a few fights previously, and for some reason he was coming back via Greyhound bus. He reads in the paper about Man Thing, decides that 2 people shouldn't be called Thing. I'm Thing, some kind of shenanigans like that. So he goes to the swamp to fight him. Meanwhile, the son of Molecule Man, who has died up in space somewhere, decides to come back to Earth to kill the Fantastic Four and talk to everyone. He's got all these superpowers of control over any molecules. He's got this molecule wand. He changes Thing and Man Thing back to their original people, so Ben Grimm and Ted Sallis. How did they end up defeating him in the end? I can't remember. It was kind of like there was a thing where the guy had to sort of will himself. I think it was like to do with different time zones or something like that. So the time went a lot quicker for him here. So he had to use his powers and his wand to magically keep himself from withering. And I can't remember. He gets knocked out of his hat. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Thing throws a globule of Man Thing in, a big pile of slimy muck. He goes to throw it in his face, but he knocks his wand out of his hand, and he's crawling to go and pick it up, and he fails. Right then, these are a couple of comic books. I wasn't sure if I think these might have been in my to get rid of list, but I was like, well, I don't want to get rid of that. I think I've got that. I'm going to keep that. So it's Wildcats versus Aliens, pretty decent enough story. Stormwatch, the flying satellite, took in, aliens basically. Aliens everywhere. And the Wildcats get up to deal with it. You got the usual alien tropes. Except the one thing, if an alien is born through a superhero, or superpowered person, they get their superpowers. So there's a character called Fahrenheit who was obviously been killed, and this alien that I assume was born from her was able to breathe out fire. Yeah, it was a decent enough story. It could have been a longer story. Could have been, but you know, as a one shot, it was good enough. It could have been maybe been fleshed out a bit longer. It's sort of like suggestion of like rushing it a bit at the end, but no, it was good enough story, good enough read. With the Wildcats annual, like there's the Cherubim and there's the Daemonites, so the two races that had been warring, and they've created a plague. So anyone who was half human, half cherubim or cherubite, whatever I said a second ago, was in danger of dying and going mad. It starts off with Majestic was going mad because he was more cherubim than human, so he went mad first, and he was like one of the strongest guys ever. So the team split up to try and find samples. I think it was trying to find samples of blood or finding the notes, and it turns out the person whose blood might be able to be of any use was Voodoo, because apparently she's got a mixture of all three types. She's got human, Daemonite, and cherubim in her blood. So they were trying to rush to find information about this virus. At the same time as trying to use her blood to find a cure. It turned out her blood was no good, but somehow along the line, her father, that she never knew, who was a Daemonite cherubim mix, somehow heard about it. I think after they broke into one of the bases, he heard about it, and so he ends up going and leaving a blood sample of his own blood, which is proper half cherubim, half Daemonite. So it was able to, the idea was they were going to be able to use that to save everybody. Well, another one I'd never read before, Bloodshot. It was a decent enough story. If I'd read it back in the 90s, I might well have been quite... I probably would have gone on to buy the next issue. It's just like, starts off... It's kind of like, doesn't tell an awful lot about his story. The fact that he's been made Bloodshot, he's not happy about it. He's trying to track down the people who did it to him. There's a couple of people who've got similar powers to him, but they're not as... they've got shorter lifespans because of the power that's sort of burning them up and eating them up inside, but he's got their power, but without the deficit of having a truncated life. In the end, he defeats them, but somehow his nanites, I think, speed up their aging, so they die quickly, kind of thing, rather than drowning him like they were trying to do. But yeah, that was a decent enough story, decent enough art. Maybe if I saw a few issues going cheap, I might pick them up. But at the moment, it's a very poor nick. He's got lots of, he's got so many. You can't see it probably, but it's got a lot of spine creases. But yeah, I don't care. I've read it now. That was cool, good enough. Right, and a couple of old Action comics. Like the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone, they're for a zone that anyone can get out of. They seem to be able to get out of it all right every now and again. So this one breaks out. Something what Supergirl does helps him to break out. Superman's away, so this guy pretends to be he makes up a whole story, whereas a Kryptonian has come to Earth from other means, and he's fallen in love with Supergirl, has convinced Supergirl that, and she's going to marry him. He uses a robot double of Superman to give his consent kind of thing and say he's going to be at the wedding, but a couple of Supergirl's telepathic friends are warning us, say, no, I don't trust him. I feel that he's evil. There's a mermaid guy who's in Jera, I think his name was. I don't remember seeing him before. I think he's in love with Supergirl, and he said, no, I don't trust him. Don't do it. Wait for Superman to come back. But she's thinking, oh, you're just saying that. But they eventually, the telepaths from our time telepathically reach into the future to Saturn Girl, who is a more powerful telepath. She's able to read his mind, realise who he is, warn Supergirl. So when he thinks that he's getting married, because apparently in Kryptonian law, once you've been married, you can't divorce. It's a bit like is it Catholics? Anyway, sorry, Richard. No, I think it is Catholic. There's nothing wrong with that. I think I think that, they can't. They're supposed to divorce, are they? But I think they do, obviously. But the idea is you don't. But anyway, I'm diversity. I'm talking about stuff that I don't really know about. Right. But it turns out it was Saturn Girl in disguise as Supergirl. So they were never actually married. And he was stood on this podium. And once he put the ring on, it triggered to send you back to the Phantom Zone. But poor old Supergirl, though, she keeps falling in love with people and getting hurt. And, yeah. Oh. Poor Supergirl. I can't remember what the first story was. There's obviously a Superman story at the beginning of it. What Superman story was it? I'm trying to remember what Superman stories I've read recently. It was only last night I read this one. So a quick look at it. It's not very good. Oh, yeah. In this one, someone's trying to kill Clark Kent because he's doing some exposés on organised crime. He gets rubbed out a couple of times, but obviously he's Superman, so he can't get killed. One time he gets shot by a passing, like a drive-by shooting. He manages to save Lois Lane from getting shot. She runs off to get the police. When she comes back, she goes, "How did you survive?" And he's taken a manhole cover and he's fashioned it into a bulletproof vest. And he's I had a bulletproof vest on because I was worried about this kind of thing. And then there's another guy called the Executioner who sets up so the typewriter, which is Clark's, is going to electrocute him. Lois Lane goes to use it, but luckily at the last second, Superman spots the wires, melts them, so it shorts out rather than killing Lois, and he's able to find the Executioner because he always buys a wreath for his victims. So he goes to every single florist and manages to capture him. He then dresses up as he just puts on a little tash, and he has a secret identity and poses as a hitman, and eventually has to prove that he's a hitman by killing Clark. So he sets it up so that he's driving a car. And the villains are watching him, kind of thing. All they see is this rifle poking out from a bushes, kind of thing, from the top of a tree. He's wrapped the trigger with some wet leather. So when he's driving up to it in his car, he uses heat vision to dry out the leather, pull the trigger, shoot him. He goes into the river. He stays under the water because obviously he doesn't need to breathe under there. He can, hold his breath. But he's convinced what was the name of the criminal guy? Oh, some silly name. Can't remember what his name was now. Oh, anyway, but convinces him that he's killed Clark Kent. And he ends up, "No, not really. Haha, I'm Superman pretending to be this hitman. Clark Kent's fine. I rescued him," or something like that. Yeah, but. Another story where Supergirl seems to be quite popular on the covers, even though she's only the backup title. In this one, she's gone to Kandor. Supergirl appreciation team give her a good day while she's there. One of the things she has to do is a judgment costume, judgment for an acting for a mento vid that's being made of. Superman's life, and it turns out this couple try to they pretend to be Pa Mark Kent. There's another boy from Kandor who's like a midget, pretends to be a Superboy, and they basically make it look like Superboy has come over again, like a kind of time loop or something, and obviously confuddles the heck out of Supergirl, but she realises, because the fact they drove on the wrong side of the road like they do on Krypton, that they were actually from Kandor, and but she was so impressed with their acting that she puts them forward. They weren't malicious, they weren't doing anything malicious, they pretended to be like they were being malicious, but she realised it was just, and it turns out they were just acting. Right, the very bad condition, this comic, unfortunately. It's the cover and it are not on friendly terms. And there's bits of the spine missing, but yeah, the lead story, the story of Superman's experimental robots, is quite crazy. Like he gets some robots. One of them's code number begins with LL. Oh, but a bit of that cover fell off then, which is like they thought it would be a lucky thing because LL, so many LLs in his life, and the robots end up going crazy for some reason. They were affected by something, and rather than being nice to Superman, start being nasty to Superman. And one of them has got the power to fire kryptonite from its eyes, because it was given that in case any Kryptonians came to Earth, or as they always did, or escaped from Kandor. They start. I can't remember why they went crazy, but they went crazy. Their tapes were messed up with, because that's technology. That's the futuristic technology of the time. They all had tapes inside them, these robots, and their tapes got corrupted somehow, and they started being threatening to kill him. They was hitting him with kryptonite rays. They did various silly pranks to him to, to humiliate him kind of thing. But they'd gone to another planet where there was 2 clocks. And every time it went to a new hour, like one time it released food and the primitive cave people come and got the food. Another time I can't remember all the things that it did. But eventually at 3 o'clock it does something, I can't remember what it was now, but it made it so that Superman... I can't remember what it was, but they did something that allowed Superman to get out from under the robot's powers, basically. And he realises that as it was 3 o'clock, both the clocks were 3 o'clock, and that formed out 2 L's. So it was like, although the LL of the robot had been unlucky, the clock, like being at 3 o'clock when it enabled him to escape, was lucky. Yeah, I can't remember how he escaped. I only watched it, I only read it last night as well. It was one of those silly ones, but it was a good entertaining read while you read. You get a like silly old Silver Age madness fun when I'm actually in the process of reading it. But anyway, last one. Right, it's an adventure comic. I'm sure I've read this story before. I'm wondering if I read this story in like a. Sometimes they did like giants, didn't they? I wonder if there was a adventure giant at some point, because the lead story, unless they repeated the story like very, very similar story in another comic, but it couldn't have been. It must have been the same story. But this character called Satan Girl is killing all the Lady Legionnaires by this crimson virus, this mysterious crimson virus, and she's trying to kill them. Supergirl comes from the past. Superboy and Mon-El are away because they're trying to save these 2 worlds from colliding with each other, so they can't be of any help. Supergirl was due to be in the 30th century, as she promised, and so she's trying to fight off this Satan Girl, but Satan Girl seems to know everything. Every time she tries to move the female Legionnaires where they can't be found, Satan Girl finds them so she can read her mind, kind of thing, or something like that. She's all these first of all, she thinks she's a Kryptonian, but kryptonite doesn't seem to affect her. Lead doesn't affect her because she's got a lead mask, which doesn't allow Supergirl to see her face, and she can't be from Mon-El's world then, because lead obviously is no good to people from Daxam. She thinks she's an android, but it turns out she's not an android either. Well, and what it turns out in the end, it was actually Supergirl's double. What had happened when she came into the future, she accidentally went into a red kryptonite area, which split her in 2 and made her lose her memory of that happening. But the other duplicate, sort of bad Supergirl, she knew that after 48 hours, when the effects of the red kryptonite wore off, she would disappear, but she wanted to live. So she was trying to get rid of the red kryptonite energy in her body, which was the crimson virus, which was she was hoping if she in 48 hours, if she was able to get all the crimson virus into the female Legionnaires, she'd be able to have she wouldn't disappear after 48 hours, and she would have her own life, kind of thing. So, but they managed to how do they manage to defeat her? In the end, she runs out of time. I can't remember how they realise who she is. I can't remember. But she doesn't have enough time to to kill off the Legionnaires, and so the 48 hours is up, and after that time the effects of the red kryptonite wears away and she disappears. So yeah, the Legionnaire ladies are saved. Hooray! And the sort of bad Supergirl double was defeated and disappeared. Right, so that was it. That's what I've read this week. I'm going to get cracking in with some more reads so I can talk to you next Monday about what I've read. If you've read any of these comic books, let me know. If you're interested, in finding out anything about those comic books, let me know. Yeah, that's it really. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to be showing you what I've had in the mail over the last week. Not a great deal. And this might be my last what's going to come in the mail video for a while, because I'm trying not to buy any comics. And I have to not buy any comics because I haven't got any money, so I really should not be buying any comics. But you'll see what I got this week. I'm gonna have to buy some comics because I've got some on some lists, and they're bound to say in a while, "Oh, these comics I want hold for you. Can you pay for them, please?" So I'll have to do that. But after that, I won't have any comics. And yeah, I'm still waiting for this package to come with a prize that I won, but hopefully it'll have come. Anyway, till tomorrow. Have a great, amazing day, and I hope that all your news will be good news. Read your comics.